In 2007, this guy bought out every single seat on a commercial Southwest Airlines flight. Why? Because that day, the 24-year-old multimillionaire just didn't feel like sharing the cabin with strangers. Young would later deny it, but his company's bank statements showed they were billed for all 130 passenger seats. He lived like he could buy the whole world just for his personal comfort. But just 6 years later, he wouldn't even have enough money to cover a basic restaurant bill. How did America's top young prodigy, who signed a multi-million-dollar contract, manage to blow every single cent, spark a police helicopter chase, and hit absolute rock bottom? Houston, Texas, South Cottrell, a rough, high-crime neighborhood. 7-year-old Vince Young is growing up without a father. He's raised by his mother and grandmother, who are barely scraping by. The boy's only escape is his old bicycle. But on this rainy day, his life almost comes to an end. A car flies around the corner at full speed. A violent crash, and the metal handlebars of his own bike pierce straight through his stomach, literally tearing his internal organs apart. Vince blacks out from hypovolemic shock. The ICU. Vince lies unconscious, hooked up to a ventilator, his torso completely wrapped in medical bandages. The doctor walks up to his crying mother and puts it bluntly. If he survives these internal lacerations, it'll be a miracle. But because of the severe damage, he will likely be disabled for life. Forget about sports forever. The doctor wrote 7-year-old Vince off, but he had no idea what kind of physical freak of nature this kid was. Fast forward just a few years, and the boy who was counted out for a wheelchair completely rewrote the history of American football. January 2006, the BCS National Championship game. 100,000 fans packing the Rose Bowl. Fourth down, Texas is down by 5. A mistake means total disaster. A field goal won't save them. They need a touchdown. Vince Young stands under the deafening roar of the stadium. His teammates are panicking, but Young is stone cold calm. The whistle blows. Vince takes the snap, but the opposing defense instantly blows past the offensive line. 3 massive defenders are rushing him at full speed. There's no one to pass to. Every receiver is locked down. So Young tucks the ball under his arm and takes matters into his own hands. A nasty pump fake, and a defender flies right past him. Vince hits top gear, scrambles down the sideline, and with just 19 seconds left on the clock, cruises into the end zone. Touchdown! At that exact moment, Vince Young becomes a living god in Texas. The kid doctors gave up on just single-handedly won the biggest game of the decade. NFL scouts are already lining up with bags of cash. He's on top of the world. But this is exactly where his downfall begins. A few months after his historic triumph, the big moment arrives, the NFL draft. Vince Young walks onto the stage as the top prospect in the country. The Tennessee Titans lock him down with a contract featuring $25 million in guaranteed money. At 23 years old, a kid from the hood gets a sum of money that an average person wouldn't make in 10 lifetimes. Overnight, his life turns into a never-ending party. He stops looking at price tags. Why save? He buys 2 or 3 cars at a time. He takes dozens of friends to the Cheesecake Factory and drops $5,000 on a single dinner. He buys out entire flights just because he wants some peace and quiet. He surrounds himself with dozens of advisors and friends who are always ready to help him blow through another 100 grand. Vince feels invincible. He truly believes this money will last forever. He doesn't realize that every single celebration is just another step toward absolute financial ruin. The illusion of a perfect life shatters. On the NFL field, Vince faces a harsh reality. His passes are getting intercepted, and the same fans who worshipped him yesterday are now mercilessly booing him from the stands. Instead of offering support, head coach Jeff Fisher publicly rips the young quarterback apart. Vince's mental armor, built on being an absolute idol, begins to crack. After another disastrous game and brutal criticism, Young finally breaks. He hops into his pickup truck, grabs a gun, and drives off into the night. He turns off his phone and vanishes. His family panics and calls the police. His inner circle is terrified that Vince is on the edge and might do something drastic to himself. Police helicopters take to the skies, and cops scour the state highways. Young is eventually found alive at a friend's house. But that night changes everything. On the outside, he's still a superstar with a multi-million-dollar contract, but inside, something is broken beyond repair. America's most dominant athlete proved to be mentally defenseless against the pressure. This was the point of no return. Following his 2008 mental breakdown, Vince's career spirals out of control. The Tennessee Titans front office no longer sees him as a leader. The guy who was supposed to be the savior of the franchise is shown the door. Young loses his superstar status and becomes a journeyman. He signs contracts with Philadelphia, Buffalo, and Green Bay, but the script is always the same. Coaches see his instability and leave him riding the bench. The guy who was used to being number one is now just sitting there in a sideline jacket, watching others play. His unique athleticism just isn't enough anymore without ironclad discipline and mental toughness. In 2014, after one last failed attempt to make the Cleveland Browns roster, Vince's phone goes silent for good. At 31 years old, prime age for a quarterback, the league officially kicks him to the curver. His football journey is over. But the most devastating blow isn't waiting for him on the Greifrine, it's waiting for him at the bank. While Vince was fighting to save his career on the field, a calculated robbery was happening behind his back, and the worst hit came from the people he trusted completely. His financial advisor and his own uncle, Keith Young, had total control over the football star's accounts. During the 2011 NFL lockout, taking advantage of Vince's financial illiteracy, they secretly signed a predatory $2 million loan in his name at a staggering, extortionate interest rate. In total, under the guise of sketchy investments, his inner circle quietly drained over $5 million from his accounts. When Vince's career ended, his debts hit him like an avalanche. In the courtroom, Young realizes with absolute horror he was betrayed by his closest family. Bank lawsuits, asset seizures, frozen accounts. In 2014, Vince Young officially files for bankruptcy. His bank account reads absolute zero. All $35 million earned throughout his career have vanished into fist air. Now, looking back at that empty airplane, you don't just see a spoiled rich guy. You see a man flying into an abyss at full speed, with absolutely no one by his side to pull the emergency brake, buying out an entire flight just to be alone, while surrounded by a crowd of fake friends ready to take your very last dime. Vince Young lost everything, a $35 million fortune, his fame, his sports career, and his family's trust. He had to swallow his pride and start his life all over again from scratch.